gosh, look at the state of me. It's now officially 2023. And so I suppose this is my first official beginning of the vlog. I have already posted 3, more as testers than anything, just to get a feel for stitching video together and using different locations. It's been quite good fun. I've definitely learnt a lot already. But now it begins. I've made a list of the sorts of things that I'm going to talk about, and I suppose this first entry is going to be kind of a rundown of the sort of things that I'm hoping to talk about. Things that are my daily life, being self-employed, living on a budget, cutting back on things. So we will see how that all works out. So my list is, I'm just going to run through this straight off in one go because it's just easier. So freezing fresh veg, wartime baking. This is something that I started to do a couple of years ago because with the price of food being expensive, when you're living on a tight budget, cutting back on everything and finding shortcuts is really important. And of course, during the war, everyone was living off rations, so everyone was cutting corners on literally everything. So that's been a really great way to start. I have there's a particular website which is by a lady who started living on wartime recipes as kind of an effort to cut back and lose some weight as well. So she decided if she used wartime recipes which use less sugar, less preservatives, all that sort of thing, that would help. So that's one of the places that I'll be referring to when I do wartime baking, and hopefully we'll actually do some of those recipes in the kitchen because I'm now working out how to set up my phone in various places. On the back end of that, last year my average monthly food bill was £17. So as a kind of a knock on from things like wartime baking and all that sort of thing, I will be going through what it is that I use to get to that bill. And that includes using cashback apps where freebies are given away, some survey sites that I use to earn income on, give you gift cards. So I get gift cards for Tesco and Sainsbury's, which effectively is free money and effectively free food, and how I can combine that with cashback apps to turn those gift cards back into cash that go back into the bank. That's another. It sounds complicated. It really isn't when you start doing it, and it's become a bit of a second nature. I also want to talk about own brands. I don't buy branded products unless, of course, they're on a freebie from a cashback app, and how you can turn, savour products, which are fairly basic, but if you know how to cook from scratch and you're creative in the kitchen, you can turn those into perfectly good meals. There's no reason why they shouldn't be as good as anything else. And also stockpiling. So my mission for last year, and again why I was able to have such a small food bill, excuse me, was just buying yellow sticker foods. So there's a lot of stockpiling involved with that, because if you see something that you use regularly and there's a lot of them on the discount shelf because they're end of line or they've come to their day, and you buy them all, you stockpile them, you put them away, and you roll those costs onto the next month. So I might spend £60 in a month on discounted food, but £40 of that will be rolled on and will be used throughout the year, because best before dates, use by dates, a lot of the time you can ignore that, and that's something else that I will talk about. Budgeting, how to use spreadsheets to keep a track of everything that you do, really, and how that can really help save you lots of money. And on the back end of that, today I'm probably going to talk about my end of year for 2022. So I'm going to do a review of everything that I've spent in 2022, what things have cost more money, where I've saved money, and what I can hopefully expect from 2023. I've already had my car insurance renewal quote through from my insurance company, and the auto renewal is £16 cheaper than last year. This has never happened, so I don't know whether it's because companies are aware that we're all trying to save a buck, and we are going to shop around now, and they're frightened of losing customers. But my insurance has automatically gone down. I don't think that's ever happened with my car insurance before. Certainly not in a long time. So that's quite a good start to the year. I'm going to talk about side hustles, earning income. I'm self-employed. This is my studio where I make clothing, and I do home decor items where I use the leftover of the fabric from my clothing projects, and I also upcycle broken jewellery and things like that into new jewellery and other things. So that's going to be something I'm talking about. So surveys as a side hustle. I had quite a good income from that last year, and I'll talk about that when I talk about my expenses for last year. Repairing technology, that's something I'm going to try this year, so that will be interesting. Canning fruit, so I'm a little bit of a forager. I wouldn't say that I am anywhere near a pro or particularly committed to it. I didn't really do anything last year, but the year before I went mad on it. I was foraging mushrooms, I was picking blackberries and apples and slowberries and all sorts of things, and I've canned a lot of what I get. And also when I'm stockpiling from the supermarket, if I see 6 bags of pears going cheap, I'll buy them and I'll can them, because obviously you can't use pears over a long period of time. Growing your own veg. I don't have a garden. I have a small piece of concrete outside my front door, but I've utilised that as best I can. I do grow things. I grow potatoes, tomatoes, strawberries, beans, and most of them are rotational, so every year I'll replant from scratch, and that enables me to just to stop everything getting out of control. And if something doesn't work one year, I'll move on to something new. So there's bits and pieces like that. How to make gift cards double your income. Putting aside emergency funds and having savings and making them work for you in terms of savings bank accounts, because although the value of your pound has now gone down, interest has gone up. So I think my interest that I'll be earning on my emergency savings, which I also use as a fallback for income most months, will probably triple this year. I also have some long-term locked away savings which will be coming to fruition this year, so that's going to add to that. So that's going to be one to use as well. So that's kind of the rundown. There will be lots of other things that I haven't thought of and things that come up as we go along. Today is I think it's the 4th of January. So hopefully I'll get this out by the end of the week. I'm going to try some new video editing software so I can put this together on a laptop rather than my phone, which is really irritating because it's such a small screen. But as I say, it's the 4th of January. Temperatures are up. It's 12 degrees today, which is why I don't have my dressing gown on over my layers, and why I look slightly more respectable than some of the other videos that I've done recently, where I've been bundled up in so many layers I can hardly move. But that's staying warm for you. So I suppose in the back end of that as well, I'm going to talk about energy bills, which have gone up a lot in the last year, as we all know, and are going to go up again in April. I try to use as little energy as possible, but that will be part of my end of year review for last year and various other things. So I'm going to get started on just giving you an overview of what I spent last year, discretionary spending, things I can't avoid, things I have got rid of, things I never buy. There's lots of things that I never ever buy. And then looking at the income side of that as well, because the way you save money is you save money on one side, but if you can increase your income on the other, even incrementally, and they meet in the middle, and you end up with a break even of some description. So I'm going to get a hold of my laptop, which has all my information on it for last year, and we'll do a rundown, and then you can get a feel for what my challenges are. Okay, so I've moved room because I'm at my laptop, which you can't see on here. I'm going to do a rundown of how 2022 looked, and my aim is to keep it the same. I don't think I'm going to be able to make anything particularly cheaper, because I think anything that is cheaper will be balanced out by other things that are more expensive. So last year in total, my outgoings for everything was £12,290. And there are some variations in how that was the year before, although I did actually end up spending less this year, or less in 22 than I did in 2021. I think it was about 12,700 in 2021. And hopefully this will explain why. So various things changed. The first one was my rent went up in October. I have a tricky situation whereby I'm self-employed. I don't do very well on credit scores, and I don't pass financial tests because I don't have a regular form of income. So when I moved into my flat in 2018, I had a 6 monthly renewable tenancy, and I pay for the full 6 months in one go. And that's still the case almost 5 years on. They still don't trust me to pay my rent on time. So I still have to pay 6 months. So this is one good reason for having emergency savings, because I have to shell out, over £3,000 in one go every 6 months to cover my rent. And then I accrue that back into the savings account over those 6 months. So it all goes out and comes in the same way. It's just in chunks. So last year my rent, which included a 10% rise for October, November and December, came to £6,105. So my new rent is now £550 per month. That's the first time it's gone up since I moved, so I feel fairly lucky in that respect. But now, of course, it's up. It's still a lot cheaper than the rest of this area. I looked at similar properties within, a reasonable distance of where I live now, and I'd be paying over 800. So I'm not going to move on principle just because of that, because it's not like the landlord or the tenancy agency care. They just want to get the money in. So last year I paid £6,105 for my rent. This year it will be £6,300, which is a yearly rise of £195, provided it doesn't go up again in October. But I know that one of the other tenants in my block already has a £25 increase on top of mine. So I suspect October that's going to go up yet again. And of course a lot of that depends on what happens with the economy and with the market, because the rental market's been affected, mortgages have been affected, and of course landlords have buy-to-let mortgages, so it's all being passed on. My other major expense was obviously energy. I paid something like £270 in 2021 for my energy, because I'm really careful about how I use my gas and electric. Last year it cost £451.90, but with the government help schemes that were in place for people on low incomes like me, and across the board for everybody, it actually came in out of my pocket less than in 2021. It was about £20 less. So it didn't do too badly. How that's going to pan out this year, I don't know. We have another price rise in April, although by then I'll be using less energy, because spring will be well and truly here by the time that price goes up. So at least I can switch lots of things off and not use them at all, which is what I do most of the time anyway. Council tax, not sure what's happening about that yet. I won't know until April, when the new tax year starts, what my new council tax rate will be. I suspect it will go up. It was £892 last year, and I get the 25% discount because I live alone, so we'll see what happens with that. My water bills last year were £161.38. I have a water meter. I try not to use water at all if I can help it. I've switched off the hot water, running water in my flat. I did that probably 3 years ago, because running a tap to make it hot wastes so much water. I only really need running hot water for washing up, so I boil a kettle, and I have a stove kettle which goes on my gas. So I use 1 kettle of that a day. In the morning I will boil a full kettle and fill 2 flasks, and that does me my hot drinks right through till evening, and then I'll do another one in the evening. So I don't use much water in when the weather changes and I need to start watering the plants outside. I keep all my shower water and all my washing up water from the kitchen, and that goes outside in the garden, so I'm not putting new water onto the garden. And I do things like I try to use the shower as little as possible. I only flush the toilet when I have to, and it sounds perhaps a little bit backward to some people that we're doing these sorts of things, but it saves a fortune. It really, really does. £161.38 a year for water is small. The other thing that's changed is my car insurance, which did go down last year because I was doing less mileage. I went from doing 8,000 miles a year to 5,000. So my car insurance last year was £257. And I've just had this morning my renewal quote for the next year, and it's gone down by £16 to 241. And that's a comprehensive package. So that's good. So well done to eShore for putting the costs down for loyal customers. That's got to be almost a first for a car insurance company. I have 2 kinds of insurance at home. I have one for my business because if anything happens to that, I need to be covered for that. That premium has never changed in the 4 years that I've been here. That costs me £322 a year, and that covers me for all my goods, all my loss of business if I'm too ill to work, covers me for if I have things in transit in my car. So it's very comprehensive. I also have contents insurance on my flat, which is one that I really dislike because it's tied to my rental agreement, because it covers fixtures and fittings in the flat that belong to the flat, not to me, but that I might damage. Like I might, bust a window or spill something on the carpet or break the fridge, that sort of thing. That costs me £200 a year, and it goes up every year, and I'm stuck with it, which is really annoying. My car, I have a service package with Peugeot, and I've always done that. That's never gone up in price either. That's £288 a year, and I pay in monthly to that, which means when my MOT and my service comes around in March, it's covered. It's like putting the money away into a little bank account, and I get like a 10% discount on certain parts and things as well for having that package, so that's great. My phone is really cheap. It cost me £18.75 a month for all the standard things you get on a mobile and unlimited internet. I don't have broadband, I don't have TV packages. I have 4G on my phone, and that does everything. So all of this is being done via 4G. I have a good signal, and because it's unlimited, I can do whatever I like online. I don't have to worry about how many gigabytes I've eaten up. That's fine. So that's great. I've been with them for a few years now, and they're fantastic. Car breakdown cover, which I have separate to my insurance because it's cheaper. I'm with a company called Emergency Assist, and this last year was £28.75, and again consistently every year that I've stayed with them, it's gone down a bit. So that's brilliant as well. Business expenses, that's for paying out for listing my things online in my Etsy shop. It's postage and packing, it's buying materials. That costs me £1,215 a year. That was last year, and each year varies depending on what's going on. This is cheaper than the year before because I've been trying to reuse more around from my studio rather than buying new goods, and I've been cutting back on buying new fabrics. Petrol, I paid an enormous amount of money for petrol last year, £550, because obviously fuel prices just got ridiculous last year. That was I think I paid about 200 and something the year before that, so that was massive. My food bill, which I will do on a separate thing, because I have a lot to say about food. This year just gone, I've paid £230 for the year for my food, and that is also slightly less than the year before that. My only other outgoing expenses is what I call the everything else category. It's discretionary, but it does include things that I have no choice but to have, but you might consider a luxury. So anything that I buy in the supermarket that isn't food, so cleaning products, over the counter, like headache tablets, all that sort of thing. Any presents, any gifts, cards I buy, that comes onto that. Any say if I go out for a drink or I buy food out in a restaurant, that counts as that. Any DIY that I want to do here, anything I buy for my plants for the garden, like new soil, new tools, anything like that. And the other thing is a dentist. Thanks to having 10 years of not being able to afford a dentist in my 20s, my dental bills now cost me £376 a year because I have to go every 3 months. So let that be a lesson to anyone that cutting corners doesn't work, because now I'm really paying through the nose for that. Before the pandemic, I was with an NHS dentist. And then once the pandemic came around, I couldn't get an appointment, and I went for a year without appointments, and I was getting really worried. So I managed to register with the dentist down at my parents', which is private, so that costs me more money, but they're much more reliable, and I feel comfortable with their advice and whatever. So some things you can't scrimp and scrape on, and I know that with the way the NHS is at the moment, pretty much the only way you're going to get any treatment soon is if you can afford to pay for it. So I've kind of gone with that, and I will probably stay with that dentist as long as I can. I have no reason to move again. You know, it's an expense. It costs a lot of money, but you know, if I don't have it done, I have no teeth. It's as simple as that. So yeah, that's the lesson. Don't scrimp and scrape on the stuff that, if you then have to get it, you can't cut corners on. It's just not worth it, especially when it comes to your health and your well-being. Other things you can cut back on. How 2023 is going to look, I'm not sure. The only thing I know at the moment is that I've saved £16 on my car insurance. I doubt my mileage will get any shorter than 5,000 miles. That covers me just for trips down to my parents every quarter and very little else. It is what it is. So that's it really. So yes, so £12,270 is all of my outgoings. I have a deficit in my income of about £3,000 a year. I'm short, and again, that's why I have savings, because it covers that shortfall. I'm going to do another entry at some point on income. I'll do that separately. To give an example of where I'm making my money at the moment, I am self-employed. I could go back to work, but for various reasons I've chosen not to. I worked in offices for 17 years. I worked in London for most of that. I lose hours of my day to commuting. I worked in toxic office environments. I've tried, since I've moved up to the northwest, to do like little office jobs and things, and the office culture hasn't changed. It's miserable, it's time consuming, and I would rather have to keep my outgoings down than have to go back to that environment. And I've tried various things up until the pandemic, and I don't think it's changed very much, and it's soul destroying and it's depressing, and I can't be bothered. It's because I like being self-employed. I like working from home. I have other little side hustles which top up the shortfall on that, or help to top it up, and I'm going to be looking at new ones for that for this year. So that's going to be another little entry at some point. And I'm going to have a think about what else I'm going to do for this vlog entry, because I think it needs just something else. Maybe I'll cook something. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about some of the outgoing costs. I do want to do something on yellow sticker shopping and all the stockpiling that I've got, and I'd love to walk you through all the boxes of stuff that I've acquired over the last year or so through the various apps and discounts that I've got, because it's quite fun. There's quite a lot there. I have to keep a spreadsheet on it because there's so much food in there in various little things that I need to make sure that I'm using up as I go along. So instead of buying new things, I am using what I already have so that nothing perishes, because wasting food is an absolute no-no in this house. I don't waste anything. I cook almost everything from scratch. I do my own recipes, and I find quick and easy recipes to do. I describe myself as a lazy cook. I want everything to be as cheap and as simple as possible, and also to create minimal washing up. So I'm no expert cook. I just kind of throw things into a pan and see what happens. So I like to be quite experimental. But again, that means that I have yearly food bills of like £230. So that's that bit for the moment, and I shall have to think about what else I shall add to this. So yeah, that's my outgoing update for now. I was going to add one more section to this this vlog entry, but by the time I'd put all the little bits together for the rest of it, I realised there was probably enough to be going on with. I have recorded something else, which is I had to go at making a recipe. But if I add it here, you're going to be watching such a long video, and I think it kind of deserves its own entry as a first off. I've got all sorts of ideas, but putting these videos together takes up so much time, because there's the planning and the recording, and then you have to stitch all the videos together, and then you have to upload them, and then you have to kind of put together the YouTube section. So it's time consuming, but in a good way, because I wanted to be more proactive in the things that I'm doing this year. And I'm not ridiculously busy in the work that I do. So this is a nice addition. So I'm going to leave this video here. And I shall catch you in the next one.